there's a long gone so stars. I don't think they send now, and then Alan Lama, two daughters from the and the son. Therefore, he and then so and that
This is taught to be the Buddha's compassion. Therefore, meditate on the Guru and pray to him. This is what it says in Karmap's words. The meaning of this is that we are to consider the Guru like the Buddha at all times, as kind as the Buddha. In doing so, of course, we should at all times, whenever we remember the Guru, meditate upon him, pray to him, supplicate him.
And then Milarepa and then Gampopa. I know Dharma and what Njungné, and then since Milarepa, Charanga, Gondon, Njungné, Tangi, Yam Tapa, Rexons, Charam, Gombo Dorje, Tige, Netera, Sami, Charam Canada, Drovanyani, Chisho, so on.
Just like that also the great Gampopa practiced. He spent quite some time in the presence of the Lord of Yogans, Milarepa, studied with him, practiced under his guidance, and one day he was called into the presence of Milarepa, and Milarepa told Gampopa, "You have received all the teaching and instructions that I had to give. You have practiced them under my guidance and achieved proper experience. Now it is time for you to go away to the Gampopa mountain and practice there in order to reach perfection. It is also in this place where you will meet with your destined disciple."
Lama Gadu change on the Dharma, Jola Yo songs, songs on Naranjung Lama Yo, Tenga Guru.
And at that point in time, Gampopa also received his final instruction from Milarepa before leaving Milarepa to go where he had been told to go. Milarepa told him, without ever forgetting the Guru, always consider him to be present above the crown of your head. Never forgetting the Guru, meditate him to be present in the center of your heart. And with that he sent Gampopa away. In this way he instructed him quite clearly to, whenever he remembered the Guru, in that case Milarepa, to either consider him to be constantly above the crown of his head, or to always contemplate him as to be continuously present in his heart center. In this way, the Guru is to be continuously remembered. Karmapa continues to say, if you do not keep the vows and commitments after having entered through the doors of the Dharma, and after having received empowerment, instructions, etc., and so forth, then this could very well be your ruin, like medicine that can change into poison. Rinpoche explains this with the analogy of a Njungné, a fasting ritual practice. It's commonly known that when we set out to practice Njungné, that on the morning of the first day you take certain commitments, certain vows upon yourself for the duration of 1.5 days. And these vows are the four main vows of not killing, not stealing, not lying, and not to have any sexual intercourse for the duration of 1.5 days. On top of that comes the branch commitment of not taking any intoxicants. So you take these vows, one should think with the best of intentions. However, if you're not able to keep these vows for the duration of which you have taken them, then what has started out so well intended could very well become a cause for negativity. Just as the analogy goes on, certain types of medicines, if not taken according to the prescription of your physician, or taken too much of them, or not taken at the right time, can easily have negative side effects, can easily have the opposite effect that which you're supposed to have, and this way could possibly be poisonous. If we were to look only at the situation here in Germany, we would see that all over the country there are quite a number of Dharma centers. And in many of these Dharma centers we have competent resident lamas. To other of these centers, lamas travel in order to do all sorts, perform all sorts of Dharma activities. And in some of these centers, occasionally weekends with Njungné practice are being offered. So one could by all means, whenever one has the opportunity, travel to the one or other center to participate in one of these Njungné practices with the one or other lama. Now, generally speaking, when we take these commitments of a Njungné upon ourselves, as we have heard before, we would of course be well advised to keep these commitments, because they are not, this is not an overly difficult thing to do, since you only take them for the duration of roughly 24 hours. You take them in the morning as the practice begins until the sunrise of the next day. Then these vows, these commitments have expired, and you do not need to feel bound to these vows or to these promises anymore. Now, in general, it is the case that we all harbor the hope of having a happy, a fulfilled life, that we all hope for a healthy body, for a healthy mental setup without any deprivations, without any hindrances or without any sicknesses and so forth. If one wishes for such a thing, needless to say, one should be in the know about that which brings about the fulfillment of this wish. If, for instance, we wish to have an immaculate birth with a perfect body, perfect mental facilities and all of this, then of course This will have to be brought about in a certain way. And what brings about such a birth is immaculate conduct. Only if we conduct ourselves in the most immaculate, in the most perfect, in the most correct way, then can we hope to be reborn in the future under such conditions under which we lack nothing. And this immaculate conduct is being brought about through the practice of proper discipline. When we speak about discipline here, this discipline comes under three headings, so to speak, or it has three aspects. The first aspect of such discipline is to avoid harm for others at any cost. The second aspect is to be continuously respectful of other schools of thought, of other schools of Buddhism or other schools or other religions for that matter as well. And the third aspect is to actively try to bring about benefit for others. Needless to say, for us normal people, us ordinary people as we are, to keep to such discipline continuously is not an easy thing to do. It's a rather more difficult thing to do. Therefore, we could possibly concentrate to the best of our ability on one of these aspects and try to school ourselves in this way. However that may be, just to take the commitments, such commitments, to take upon ourselves such discipline, simply for the duration of a single day, from one morning until the very next sunrise, for instance, in the course of such a Njungné practice, is tremendously beneficial. Should certainly not be underestimated. And in this way, we would lay the foundation, so to speak, for that which we are hopeful of in the future. So therefore, whatever commitments, whatever samayas, as they're called, we take upon ourselves for whatever duration we take them, they are to be kept at to the very best of our ability. Continuing to explain these points, Karma then says, without knowing all the small details of such commitments, it is difficult to keep them. However, it is sufficient to include all of these details within the essential meaning. And indeed, when we think about all of these various commitments, etc., there are a great many instructions of how to keep them, what the individual vow is all about, what its branches and its subsidiary vows are, etc., and so forth. To know all of these things is indeed not easy. To learn them in the first place is not easy. To remember them is even more difficult. However, even if one has not received such instructions, or if one is not able to remember all of these details of one's vows and commitments, if one is in the know about the very essence, the essential point of these commitments, and sticks to these, that in itself is sufficient. With that, we will be able to keep whatever commitment we have taken upon ourselves. Karma continues to say, with the confidence that they know what is to be done at all times or in all situations, entrust yourself to the precious ones, precious ones here, of course, meaning the three rare and precious ones, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Which means to say that in whichever situation you may find yourself, completely trust the refuge that you have gone for. Trust those to whom you have gone for guidance and protection, the three rare and precious ones, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. If you experience pain, or sickness, depression of whatever sort, it is them who know what is to be done. If you experience happiness, bliss, if you revel in happiness in every which way, it is also them who know what is to be done in any situation, at any point of time. Continuously remembering that, or reminding yourself, and continuously going for protection to these objects, the three rare and precious ones, that in itself will include or will take care of all the commitments of having taken refuge which you have taken upon yourself. So with whatever idea in mind or hope in mind, you have gone for refuge, you have placed yourself under the protection of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. All of that will be taken care of, all of that will be taken care of, so to speak. You constantly remind yourself of the ability of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to constantly, at all times, know what is the right thing to do. On it goes in Karmachapa's teachings, saying not to harm others with any action whatsoever. That in itself will include the intention of all the vows and commitments of individual liberation, so-called, also so-called as the pratimoksha or vinaya vows. So if we were to avoid in such a way whatever harm we could possibly cause others, then whatever vows of individual liberation we have taken upon ourselves would be taken care of, would be kept. When we speak of harm for others, for the most part, harm for others is being brought about through actions of the body and actions of the speech. Actions of the body, for instance, would be to kill, or to steal, or to behave sexually inappropriate, in an inappropriate way. So, of course, to take the life of others, to take that which has not been given to us, and to start sexual relationships with those with whom it is improper, namely people who are already in relationships or who are not proper objects of having a sexual relationship with. Of course, these are physical actions, actions of the body which cause harm. To avoid these, we would indeed be well advised. Similarly, we could also cause harm with our speech, by way of either lying, speaking the untruth, or speaking in a rough way so as to insult others, so as to cause them distress, or by way of sowing discord among others who heretofore have been in agreement, who heretofore have been friends, who had good relationships, and after we have entered into the equation are fighting among each other because we have been talking in such a way so that strife and fight arises among themselves. Or also to simply speak in a completely useless, idle way, idle gossip for that matter, useless talk, empty talk which has no benefit, which has no meaning whatsoever, that in this way we would waste not only our own time but also the precious time of others. So if we were to avoid these 7 misconducts, 3 of the body, 4 of the speech, then by way of simply doing so, by simply avoiding these pitfalls, already whatever vows of conduct, vows of individual liberation of that sort we have taken upon ourselves would be kept.
And then, Urgyenpa, and then Jagar Dorje Rajagirito, Pupa Chimbo, Tabu Chimbo, Terra, Vesum Pupa Azora. Then Vesum Pupa can pet, very competent, soldier called Jay, called Teyakala, and then Trochin Saraha, then Saraha, Shazziba. Then you come Bella Peltani, Teyakala. KARMAPA, family can sing here, not Chimbo, and then Kedo Urgyenpa Congress on. Time around, should I show go me? Salam show go me? Naran and Rio. Then KARMAPA, family saying here, not Chimbo, family, that is in Yaku or somebody.
In Tibet, the 12th century, there lived the master known as Urgyenpa. Kedrup meaning both scholar as well as accomplished master. He was indeed a great master who had studied a lot, who had accumulated great knowledge through his study, great wisdom, as well as great accomplishment through his practice. He was a master who had beheld the faces of many Yidam deities in the course of his practice, etc. So he was learned and accomplished at the same time. And at one time he went on a pilgrimage of India. He went down to India, he visited all sorts of various places, did practices there, as one does on a pilgrimage, and eventually he came into the neighborhood of the present-day Indian city of Rajgir, and in a mountainous region near Rajgir, in a certain cave there, he sat down to practice Gana Chakra, to practice Tsok. And in the course of this Tsok ritual, of a Tsok ritual that he performed in this particular cave near Rajgir, he beheld a vision of the great Indian Mahasiddha Saraha, who was blessed by Saraha's presence in this way. He eventually returned to Tibet, and after having returned there, he eventually heard of the great fame of this master who was known as the Mahasiddha Pakshi, the second KARMAPA, of course. And he thought to himself, well, in the way of Dharma, I do not require anything further. I have received empowerment, I have received transmission and instruction, so in that regard, I have got already everything that I could possibly wish for. However, the fame of this master is so great, now, wouldn't it be a good idea to go and see him?
And then, Kedu Urgyenpa, that's only Pakshi, Takama and then he warrior Lagan. Many your Miana Kogamudu. That country take the Tago, Kedu Urgyenpa, and then Yambai Johnny, Kedu. KARMAPA, you doesn't count, now Kedu Urgyenpa. Tadi Chambuzi, the Yori. KARMAPA, I mean, he was Tana Tarin drove me.
So Urgyenpa had decided to go see Pakshi, and he thought that the next day would be a good day to do so. At the same time, Pakshi, at the place where he resided, was in deep meditative concentration, and in his clairvoyance he saw that the next day the great and famous master Urgyenpa would come to visit him. And he told his students, he called together his students, his monks, and told them the great scholar and saint Urgyenpa is going to come to visit tomorrow. We have to receive him in the proper fashion, so therefore please prepare everything, get all the monastic robes out, get the banners out and the musical instruments, so that we can receive him in a proper procession. And everything got underway. Yet again, at the same time, Urgyenpa, back at his place, thought to himself, well, people say that this Pakshi is clairvoyant, that he knows the future. I should really check out whether or not that is actually the case. So then he, in turn, entered into a deep meditative concentration, and out of this concentration he had a good look at what the folks at Pakshis were up to. And he saw in his clairvoyance that everybody was busy preparing for receiving him the next day, preparing a great procession, as one does when the great master comes to visit the monastery, when he comes to visit another master. And he thought to himself, indeed, this Pakshi person indeed is clairvoyant. Well, that being the case, I shall not go tomorrow. The next day came and everything was prepared when Pakshi, yet again in his meditative concentration, saw that Urgyenpa would not be coming this day. And he called the whole shindig off and told them, however, he will really come tomorrow. So tomorrow, have it all ready. So it came to pass on the next day, indeed, that Urgyenpa came into the presence of Pakshi, and he thought rather highly of himself. He thought, well, I have accumulated so many great qualities, I'm clairvoyant, I have wonderful meditative abilities, so that being the case, there's no need for me to prostrate to this Pakshi. And he didn't. He came into Pakshi's presence, Pakshi bid him welcome and asked him to take his seat next to him. As they sat there exchanging niceties, as is the habit of great Tibetan masters when they meet, all of a sudden Pakshi said to Urgyenpa, well, we've met before, haven't we? In that cave in India. And Urgyenpa thought to himself, cave in India? Pakshi, haven't seen him there, he wasn't there. The only thing I remember is that I had a vision of the Mahasiddha Saraha, And then all of a sudden it hit him with full force. He realized that Saraha, the vision of which he had had in India, and the person of Pakshi next to whom he was sitting were one and the same. And at that moment, great devotion arose in him for Pakshi.
I didn't care to begin, but Gampopa to do the sun and show me do. I can't and young from top of Sherab into and y'all Gampopa, and he had to juggle.
So having finally realized that he found himself in the presence of a highly exalted master, he then eventually asked for Pakshi's blessing, and he received Pakshi's blessing. Having received it, he was so completely overjoyed that he jumped up and he jumped around and danced while singing the name of Pakshi.
Anything.
So the actual words of his song of joy were Pakshi Jeno, which means about as much as Pakshi knows everything, Pakshi knows everything about me. And with this song on his lips, he just danced about, completely joyful and happy.
Any Pakshi saw some time. I'm not sure Roma, Zeruji, not Jesus on the any Pakshi, drinking nature, to something. Any Pakshi, Roma, Pakshi, Roma, some. Any to Jikama Kanzon, Ondo, Mamaton, and it's hard to chamber trailer. Tongi Urgyenpa Njungné, any Jinzinge, Romanda, which is Tomani, Jinzinge. Any Siso, any Gampopa, Njungné, the Sadu, Sombaronzon Dorje to Chong, any Sombaronzon Dorje, Kedu Urgyenpa, and then Kaji Songo Ondo Mamaton, to Shivali. Or Tenga.
After all that singing and dancing and jumping around, Urgyenpa eventually calmed down again, and he thought, oh, now is the opportunity for me to actually offer prostration to the master. So he threw himself down before Pakshi 3 times, and with hands folded at his heart, he requested Pakshi to please accept him as his student. Pakshi said, yep, I think there still is a little bit of Dharma that I could teach you, so accept that you are. That way, Urgyenpa became Pakshi's student and eventually received the entire transmission of all the empowerments, the teachings, the instructions of the Kamakaji or the Kamsamkaji lineage from Pakshi. In this way, he became a lineage holding or a lineage transmitting master in the lineage of Kamsam gurus. And eventually, of course, Pakshi passed away and was eventually reborn as the 3rd Karmapa, who came to be known as Karmapa Rangjung Dorje. At that time, or at a certain time then, in the young Rangjung Dorje's life, Urgyenpa came into his presence, and he transmitted all the teachings and transmissions of the Kamsamkaji lineage which he had previously received from Pakshi to the young Rangjung Dorje. Now it is time again to look at mind nature, and as we do so, rid yourself of all hope for improvement, at the same time rid yourself of all fear of deterioration, and simply allow mind or consciousness, for that matter, to remain naturally. While resting naturally in this way, thoughts might appear. When thoughts appear, nothing other is to be done but simply to take note of them. Simply look into their very essence and let them be. Just leave it at that and continue to remain naturally.
다 들어와요, 들어와요.
Questions? If there are any.
다시 내래. 다시 내래.